They called the cops on Grandpa for fishing, but they forgot he owned the lake. I live in a quiet lakeside neighborhood in Georgia. My grandpa, Walter Briggs, 82, retired carpenter, built his small cabin here back in the 70s, long before the fancy HOA came along. He's got this old wooden dock, some fishing rods, and a heart that beats slower but stronger than anyone I know. A few years ago, developers bought up the land around his cabin and started selling exclusive lakeside homes under a new HOA. Beige fences, matching mailboxes, weekly beautification meetings. You know the kind of people who call a committee vote over a lawn ornament. To them, Grandpa was just the old guy with the sagging porch. But that lake was his pride. He fished there every sunrise. One afternoon, while Grandpa sat quietly on the dock, the HOA president, a woman everyone called Karen, no irony lost, came storming down in high heels and fury. She told him the lake was private property now, and he was trespassing. Grandpa just smiled and said, "Ma'am, I've been fishing here since before you could walk." Minutes later, she called the cops. 2 squad cars showed up to question an old man with a cane and a fishing rod. I drove over furious, and the humiliation cut deep. Grandpa didn't deserve that. That night, I pulled out Grandpa's old filing box from under his bed. Inside was a thin, yellow deed. And there it was. The lake, not the lot, not the dock, the actual lake bed was still registered under his name. The HOA's entire private community lake was technically sitting on Grandpa's property. They had been managing, fencing, and insuring his lake for 5 years illegally. We didn't go shouting or suing at first. Instead, we hired a local attorney and quietly filed a notice of property ownership. Then we waited. The next HOA barbecue? Grandpa showed up with a no trespassing private property sign and hammered it right by the water. Every family froze like they'd seen a ghost. Karen marched over, red as a tomato. But this time, the sheriff backed Grandpa. The HOA's insurance balked, their liability coverage got suspended, their annual dues skyrocketed. Then came the lawsuit. Back taxes, unpermitted structures, and environmental violations all tied to them using someone else's land. 3 months and a courtroom hearing later, they settled with Grandpa for just over $1 million. The HOA crumbled. Karen resigned publicly after neighbors found out she'd been charging members extra lake maintenance fees. The gatehouse got boarded up, the private lake sign came down, and new families started waving to Grandpa again. The same folks who once called the cops now bring him homemade pies. Grandpa used part of the settlement to restore the dock, left the rest in a local kids' fishing fund. He never gloated, never bragged. He told me, "Respect's like water, son. You lose it when you start thinking you own what's meant to be shared." Then share your thoughts in the comments, but no one liked or subscribed.